Marketer, what is the difference between these two approaches? Which one will perform better? We're going to study this in detail later, and I'll share with you the winner. But right now, let me make a key point. Every decision to purchase is preceded by 4 conclusions. And by focusing the power of those 4 conclusions, we can ramp up the force of our value proposition. But how? How can we learn the practical mechanics of strengthening the value prop? We're on section 3 of the landing page blueprint. In the last session, I taught you about appeal and exclusivity. In this, we're going to study a third concept. And there are 2 keys, 2 critical points we need to understand. First is this. We must leverage the psychological calculus of our value prop. What does that mean? Well, let me illustrate with a simple heuristic. It's not an equation, just a heuristic. Value minus cost equals net force. What we're saying is the force of your value in their mind minus the force of your cost in their mind equals the net force of your offer. Think of it like this. If you write a really good offer, and let's suppose that on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 6. But the combination of friction and anxiety is the equivalent to a -8. What is 6 minus 8? Well, it is -2. And when this happens, we are in trouble. Our offer's net force doesn't have the power to produce conversion unless someone is especially motivated, which is another heuristic we'll teach later in this program. Now, if you just think about that for a moment, it is the task of marketing to maximize perceived value and minimize perceived cost. Indeed, I'll show you an example in just a moment. There's another way to think about it. Consider it like a fulcrum. On the one hand, you have the value. On the other, you have the cost as they're perceived. This fulcrum, in a sense, illustrates the entire work of the marketer. Our job is to tip the fulcrum in favor of value. Now, what does that look like in practice? Let me show you an example. Here's an organization we worked with in the past. Look at the control. We're here to help. But what does that really mean? Well, the options are call us, have us call you, chat with us. Now, that might seem like a value to the marketer who prepared the copy, but it's all really a cost. Nobody wants to be called by an insurance person. No one wants to have to call an insurance person. No one wants to chat with an insurance person. These are all negatives, and the control, in its best effort to try and help someone, has fielded a message that is full of negative psychological variables. But look at the treatment. It's very different. Simplifying Medicare for you. Then it positions their telemarketers as agents and says it can offer a comprehensive range of Medicare Advantage plans available in the industry. Our most competitive rates. People want that. A licensed Medicare teleagent, that tells you that this is not just some salesperson who will first listen, then find solutions that meet your needs. That first listen is very important. A customer-first team who can offer advice on your medical insurance needs. Do you see the difference in the approach between the control and the treatment? Think about the fulcrum. In the control, the negative perceived cost is outweighing the value. In the treatment, the value, the perceived value is outweighing the cost. You don't want to have to talk to this teleagent, but it becomes worth it to get these pluses. Well, what does it produce in actual life experience? Well, it is a 638% increase. Think about that. That's dramatic. And it happened because the fulcrum was tipped properly. First, let's review. So we've said that perceived value minus perceived cost equals the net force of your offer. We said that appeal, which is a conclusion in the mind, is divided by the number of options, which we define as exclusivity, another set of conclusions in the mind. I can only get this from you. But let me talk about the difference between these two in the third concept. This is simple addition and subtraction. This is division. Now I'm going to show you the power of multiplication in the psychology of your offer. So there are 2 concepts that are critical before anyone can perceive the value. And without these concepts working properly, you'll never be able to get the kind of power you need. And these are multipliers, and they're based either on a 0 or a 1. I'll explain this. You'll see. Stay with me, and then I'm going to show you lots of examples, and we're going to teach you how to get this clarity all within a space of about 10 minutes. So follow. Let's call clarity either a 0 or a 1. Either it's clear enough that I understand your offer so that I can appreciate it, or it's not. So it's either a 0 or a 1. Now, let's imagine for a second that credibility works the same way. So credibility is that I believe what you're saying. If I don't believe, that's a 0. If I do believe, that's a 1. Now, we have our equation set up, our heuristic set up, and you can see it working. We're trying to get our value prop working properly. We've filled an offer with high appeal. Let's call it a 9. And then there are 2 other places to get it just like us. Remember, a value proposition is a monopoly in the mind. If there are 2 other places, then that 9 is cut to let's call it a 4.5. This enables us to consider a simple equation. If 4.5 represents the net force of your value proposition, but people can't understand it, then they get a 0. What is 0 times 4.5? 0. If people understand it, but they don't believe it, what is 0 times 4.5? 0. These are so essential that we can't afford to pass them up. People need to understand before they can believe. People need to believe before they'll be willing to receive. So it all begins with clarity and credibility. And that enables people to feel or experience the appeal and the I want this, which leads to the exclusivity. And I can't get it quite like you offer it anywhere else. The closer you can get to that, the higher your number. If you get them all right, you have a win on your hands. So how do we do that? Last time I taught you about appeal and exclusivity. This time I'm going to teach you about achieving clarity. Now, before I go any further, take a look at this value proposition. Can you tell me what's wrong with it? Can you see the problems? Let's use the framework that we taught 2 sessions ago. Will you? In a sense, the offer is, will you win our mailing list? And then there's the psychological counter, why should I? And then there's an answer, because. Well, what is the because factor? What is the claim here? And what is wrong with it? Put your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. I'll review and answer every one for the next 7 days. I want to interact with you so that you can learn. Which brings us to point number 2. Enforce the absolute clarity of your message. Marketer, the what must precede the why. The prospect must understand the what, that is, what you want them to do, before they consider the why, that is, the why you want them to do it. But how do we accomplish this crystal clarity? Well, there are 3 things we can learn today. So listen fast, because I'm going to talk fast. A, break the offer into parts or steps. Here's an example. The control has a subscribe to the brand, and then it says remove ads, enjoy access to more robust features, and experience the brand the way it was intended. But think about that more deeply. What does enjoy access actually mean? To more robust features, what are they? And then experience the brand the way it was intended, what does that mean? Clarity is not there, but the treatment says get premium access, and then it breaks it down. Up to 120 deviations per page. Browse with no ads. Browse all the way back to the year 2000. Do you see what's happening here? We're using this power that comes from breaking it into parts. And the treatment produced a 45% improvement. Now let's look at an example with steps. The control has a sort of classic e-commerce approach. It just has the category and the prices, and then it has a why choose section at the bottom. But remember, the what must precede the why. The treatment skillfully interweaves the what and the why. Repair in 3 easy steps. Then it lays them out, 1, 2, 3. And it has an explanatory video. The combination is powerful, and it helps produce a 58% improvement. That brings us to the second way. Explain with numbers, bullets, or apps. Now here's a complex product for pharmaceuticals, and it tries to help you understand what you can do with a combination of these things. You see on the left the surveys, the panels, the client center. That actually helps you imagine how you would use the product. Then it breaks it down further. It says this quantitative market and clinical research offering allows you to reach the physician you care about with results in a matter of hours. but it explains that. You can screen physicians using your own criteria or a target list. You can capture independent physician feedback. You can save money with a survey package customized to suit your needs. That's further strengthened by a graphic that shows the results of a survey and how it works. So there's a good example of this. So we've said break the offer into parts or steps. And we've said that you can explain with numbers, bullets, or apps. But finally, you can illustrate with a powerful diagram or infographic. Here's an example from the travel industry. You can see how the image in the phone is complemented by the wording on the left. Save up to 60%. Itineraries in real time. Millions of verified traveler reviews. Here's another example. Big newspaper. And in this case, the image says access unlimited stories from your computer, smartphone, or tablet. Read anywhere you go, online or offline. And then the image itself produces even greater clarity as you imagine what the words are saying. All of that came together, by the way, to help produce 173% improvement over the control. And it's powerful. So marketer, here's the question for you. Have you prioritized the what over the why? Have you simplified your offer with parts or steps? Have you explained with numbers, bullets, or apps? Have you illustrated your value prop with powerful graphics? These are all key. When you put them together, you will have a framework for amping up the power of your value proposition. Now, it's important that they understand, but it doesn't matter if they don't believe. Remember the 0 and the 1? Remember the multiplier effect? We need them to believe. How do we do that? That's what we're going to learn in the next Fast Class. Thanks for your trust. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sticking with me.